All right, good afternoon, you two. Thank you for the emails letting me know that you were not able to attend class on Tuesday. I'm going to briefly create a video for you both just so that you can see what we covered in class and kind of explain some expectations as we move forward throughout the semester. And if you have any questions, please reach out. So when you log into your Blackboard, you'll obviously see the 4 content areas here that are important for this class. Class syllabi, where you can access the class syllabus and get all the needed information, expectations, etc. About the class, and read that on your own time because it is a little bit lengthy, and to save some time. If you have any specific questions about this, please let me know. The only thing that to point out is as far as the grading expectations, you will have a midterm and a final for the class. I work off a point scale of 1,000 points, give or take, and you can expect that the weight of the midterm and the final will be 200 points apiece, giving you a total of 400 points out of 1,000, or therefore 20% each, 40% of your total grade. And then the assignments and projects are 30 points, three categories are 300 apiece, giving you a total of 600 points between the both. Therefore, 60% of your grade will be on the assignments and projects, which are coding-based, that you will create in class. So what I told the class on Tuesday is that if you do your work, you turn in everything on time, you're going to pass the class. All right, so the remainder of the grade will make up based off of the midterm and the final that you take. I do curve the midterm and final as well, so if you take that and you're not happy with your grade will go up because usually curves are applied. You do not need to purchase a book. If you go through the syllabus, it does say that there is a book that is helpful. I actually recently found a free link that is a pre-publication version, so it's not the full, but it's a good portion of it. So I'll post that in Blackboard over the weekend so you can have access to it. But if you want to purchase the book, it's located within the syllabus, and it's a great resource to have, but you don't need it. Everything that I'm going to post within this class notes section, all PDFs or PowerPoints, and you can just access all the information on your own time. When the midterm and final come up, you're going to go under the exam section here. The link for the exams will be posted within here. It will not be visible on your end until it reaches the day and time where the visibility will turn on, and therefore you'll be able to see it and then take the exam and be done with it. And last, whenever you have an assignment or project, it will be posted within this area. I covered this in class on Tuesday. I'll discuss this toward the end of the video so that you can kind of work on it yourself and submit it before class next Tuesday. All right, so that is basically how things will run, or you can utilize Blackboard for the course of the semester. Par for the course, you're going to be using a program that's called App Inventor. You can kind of already see it with the tabs I have open over here. All you have to do is open up a browser, type in App Inventor into the search bar, Google or Bing or whatever one you so choose, and then it'll bring you to this page right here. All right, so App Inventor is a programming language, is a drag and drop style programming language, cloud-based language that was created by MIT. And MIT created this in conjunction with Google, so there's a lot of synergy between this programming language and the Google platform. So when you are ready to dive in, I told the class that in order to program with this, you have to have a Gmail account. Some accounts are Google backbone, so therefore you can use that. Unfortunately, with Southern, we're Microsoft-based, so you will not be able to use your Southern email. So if you have a personal Gmail, you can use that. If not, or if you don't want to use a personal one, create a new Gmail account, but use that Gmail account moving forward for the semester for coding. Once you have that Gmail that you want to use, go up here, click on the Create Apps button. It'll take you to the next screen that's going to ask you to log in. Once you log in, you can save your credentials for easier and quicker access, but initially you'll need to put your username, your email and your password. Once you do that, it'll take you into the App Inventor site. The first page, the first time you log in, it's going to have an acknowledgement page that you agree to the terms of service. But once you click on OK and move on, it'll allow you into the user interface area as well. And just to kind of point out that the App Inventor site, down here where we have Get Started and Try Tutorial, there's great resources down here that you can actually grab some extra help when you're starting off if you're kind of confused or stuck on working with the program. However, once you are in, you're gonna have an environment that looks something like this. This whole area here is gonna be grayed out because if you've never used this program before, you're not gonna have anything in here. I have a list of programs that I've already created from previous classes and so on and so forth. So, you know, eventually by the end of the semester, you should have at least at a minimum, 10 programs that you yourself have created, if not maybe even more. But this is what the user environment looks like. For the first few weeks, the hardest thing about using this program is just really trying to find where things are located. If you ever used a program before, like an AutoCAD, Autodesk program, or like an animation software program like Lightwave or Maya, or maybe a Photoshop, there's a lot of filters, there's a lot of components that are kind of scattered all over the place. It's really more so knowing where to find them versus, how to apply them. That is a challenge, all right? But once you kind of get the lay of the land and you know where things are, it really becomes it becomes easier to use, and you'll be able to more efficiently code moving forward. All right, so App Inventor, like I said, drag and drop, cloud-based language is great because it's a great first way to learn how to code, especially if you've never coded before. It's very visual. It's about clicking on puzzle piece-like blocks and then dragging them onto the screen and then connecting them together, and I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. All right, but just to kind of point out really quickly some areas that you're going to use. So the projects file up here, when we click on that, the My Projects button here, whenever you are within the program, will always bring you back to this page here. So if you want to toggle between selecting, one program and the next, you can actually kind of click on, one program, go back to Projects, My Project, and then click on a different program and have that one open up instead. So it's a quick way you can kind of go back and forth. Within there as well, we have Start a New Project. So whenever we want to create a new project, we're going to select this option here, or on this page, we can click on the New Project button. That will then launch a pop-up window that would notify us to name our project. You always want to name the project that is something unique to what you're building, just for ease of use and proper naming convention. And then once you do that, you hit OK, and that will then bring you into the build environment, which you'll see in a second. And I mean, I'll point out the rest later, but for now, that's all you need to worry about. You will need to use your phone or like some sort of tablet device because you'll download, whether it be through the App Store on the iOS or the Play Store through the Google Android environment. You want to access whatever device you have, go to the store, and in the search field, you're going to want to type in App Inventor. All right, just like how it's written up here in the left-hand corner. All right, when you type in App Inventor, you're going to see the logo that looks like the little bumblebee with the two color hexagons. All right, that's the app that you're going to want to download. All right, so once you download that onto your phone or on your tablet, you're then going to be able to utilize that program to test your code when we build it. All right, and the way how we test our code, and I'll show you how to do it when we get there, is you're going to click on Connect, and then you have this first link up here, which says AI Companion. All right, we're going to click on that. When we click on that link, we're going to see that there's a QR code that's going to be generated. So this QR code is unique to the program that you just built. So when you open that program, and if you downloaded it, you can, the App Inventor program, you can try it now. What you're going to see is two buttons sort of in the middle. There's going to be an orange button and a blue button. The orange button should say enter code, and so that there's a text box that's above that button that you can manually enter the code, which is basically this 6-digit code that's right over here. You would type that code in, hit the orange button, and then it will compile your code. Or what you can do is you can hit the blue button. So on the very first time that you use this app and you hit the blue button, it's going to ask for permission for the app to access your camera. So, you can say yes, it is a trusted program. So when you hit the blue button, it's going to launch the camera. You just hold the camera up to this QR code. It's going to scan it, and then it's going to automatically compile a code and then load it onto your phone. Now, one thing just to make note is that within an Apple environment, you cannot permanently install the apps that you create. It's only a temporary grab that's through the application where you can test your code. But once you close the program out, the code is gone. However, on an Android environment, you actually can physically install a software that you create onto your device. All right, but for now, we don't need to worry about that. So let's do this just so that you have the information and I don't have this video too long. Let's go up top here where it says New Project. Let's click on New Project. And like I said, the pop-up's going to come up. So I'm going to type in stoplight. I'm going to put V4 because I already have a couple versions of it already, but you can just put stoplight and hit OK. It generates the project and now brings us into the build environment. So this is what the coding environment looks like. And I'm only going to talk about the areas that we need to worry about for right now. As we go on through the course of the semester, I'm going to talk about more of it. But as you can see, there's two buttons up top here that are important. We have the designer button, which is shaded gray, which means it's currently active. And we have the blocks button, which is the next area that we can go into. So I can click on that now, right? And the environment changes, all right? And this environment now is basically where we are going to build the code that we're going to have for the program that we just made. So I'm going to go back into my designer area and let's explain, the areas within here. The first thing is out of the 4 columns that we have, the first left-hand column is called our palette, right? And these are all the areas that we're going to design the look and feel of our user interface. And in order to do anything, all I have to do is simply click on the object, drag, and then drop it within my area over here. All right, so this is my, as it says, text for button 1, my button on my screen. Right, so all I have to do is just click and drag, and there's, like I said, there's other drawers down here, like the layout drawer, for example, allows me to arrange how I want these to appear on the screen. And the reason why that's important is because when I take, say, another button and click and drag it on here, and I drop it, it's going to drop it right beneath. Well, if I click on this and say, well, what about if I want to place this button right next to, on the right side of this text for button 1, and if I click and release, it still drops it beneath. Or if I want to grab this and say maybe drop it in the lower right-hand corner, if I click and release, it's going to drop it right there as well. So unfortunately, the way how by default it's set up is that whenever you click and drag items on the screen, it's just going to vertically scale from top to bottom, and we can't place things anywhere. So if I really want to design my user interface to how I want it, and let's just say like before where I want these 2 buttons to be side by side with each other, I can use an arrangement in order to specifically place objects around my screen. And as we see, we have a horizontal arrangement, a table arrangement, vertical arrangement. All right, so to put things side by side to each other, I can use a horizontal arrangement. And to do that, all I would have to do is click and drag the item and just simply drop it on my screen. And notice too that whenever I click on something and I drag on the screen, that thick blue bar you see, that's basically letting me know exactly where that object is going to drop once I release my mouse click. All right. And because I want these objects horizontally arranged, all I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag and drop them within my arrangement here. And when I do that, I see now that I have the objects side by side from each other. All right. And I can actually take these and I can adjust them around because as you look over here in my components tab, which I'll talk about in a second, but this horizontal arrangement is belongs with the screen here. So if I click on my screen 1 object on top here, if I look at some of my options here, we have a horizontal and vertical alignment. So right now the alignment for the vertical is set to top. Well, if I can change this to center or I can change this to bottom, you'll see that that whole arrangement slides along with it. All right, which is good if you want things on the bottom here, but sometimes you can't do that because maybe we only want one component to be on the bottom, not all of them. By selecting this vertical arrangement over here, this means that anything that's on the screen here is going to follow suit. So if I only want this one thing to be down there, I have to think of other crafty ways in order to push it toward the bottom, which we'll eventually get to. For now, don't worry too much about it. All right, so I'm actually, in the event too that you grab something, you dropped it, like in this case, the buttons inside the arrangement, and you didn't want that, you can just simply click on the object, grab and pull, and you can pull these objects outside of the arrangement and no longer have them inside anymore. All right, and if you want to delete stuff, you could simply click on it here or click on it here, and you can go to delete and then hit delete, and then that will delete it from your user interface. All right, so these 2 drawers are important because we're going to be using these in the course of building this program. And because since we're going there, let's just grab one more button and let's click and drag and drop it on the bottom below button 2. So we'll have 3 buttons on our screen. All right, so anyway, so the next column that we have here is our viewer. And again, this is just a mock of what our phone screen would look like. So when we compile our code, this is what it would look like on our phone or our tablet. All right, so that is nothing more than to build the user interface, the graphic user interface as we call it, or sometimes it's referred to as a GUI, GUI, that is where we are going to have the look and feel of the app we created. The components column here lists all the components that we're dragging and dropping onto our screen, all right? And then we can rename them or delete them all through this area here. And then we have a media component here. Well, sometimes I might want to upload pictures or sound clips, maybe a small little video clip, right? All that can be done through here. It's a simple, like with any computer system, you click on upload file, you navigate to where the file is stored, you click on it, you hit OK, and then it will then upload that into your cloud environment of your App Inventor, and then you can access it later on. And then lastly, we have our properties. All right, so every component that we drag and drop from over here is going to have a different set of properties, and we can utilize these properties to change attributes of our button. So let's go and do that right now, because it is part for the program that the small little program we're going to build. So with button 1 highlighted, I'm going to create an application that's going to kind of look like a stoplight. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my background color. I'm going to click on default, and then I'm going to click the color red. Because again, stoplights go red, yellow, green, and so that's what I'm going to model for these buttons here. But before I go on to the other buttons, there's a few things I want to do. So after making the color red, what I'm going to do, because the text is kind of small, I'm going to up the font size, and I'm going to change the font size to 24 just to make it look a little bit bigger. Right now, the height and width is scaled to automatic. For the sake of just kind of going through this and not wasting too much time, I'm going to leave it set to automatic, but normally I would change this to like a fill parent or actually give it a specific pixel size. But for now, you can just leave it as such. Instead of saying text for button 1 in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this area, and I'm going to actually type in the word red so that it matches the color. All right, and then that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to change anything else. Again, I'm kind of going fast through this, so make sure you just kind of pause the video when you get to a spot so you can kind of build it on your end, and then play when you've caught up, and then you can follow on to the next item. What I'm also going to do as well, before I go on to button 2, button 1's name is kind of generic. If I had 15 buttons here, and when I go into my code area, well, what's the difference between button 1, button 10, button 14? All right, I have to remember all that, and again, that's just too generic for me. I want to make sure that everything is named with specifics. So I'm going to actually click on button 1, which it already is, and I'm going to go to rename. All right, and I want to create a name that's going to be unique to the item in question. I'll leave the word button, but I'm going to delete out the number 1, and I'm going to type in the word red. So this is my red button. All right, so with that being done, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to click on button 2, and I'm going to repeat the process just like I did with the red button. So first, I'm just going to rename. So with button 2 highlighted, I'm going to go rename. I'm going to delete out the number 2, and I'm going to type in the word yellow. And then I'm going to change some of the properties. We're going to go to background color. We're going to select yellow. Font size, I'm going to change that out and turn it into 24 to match the red button. Leave the height and width to automatic. And then I'm going to delete out text for button 2. And I'm going to type in the word yellow. All right. And that should take care of that one. All right, so you can pause it, do what you need to do. And now on to the last one, button 3. Let's click on button 3, and we can go to rename, and let's get rid of or delete out the number 3, and we're going to type in the word green. All right, so with that highlighted, we're now going to change the attributes like I did with the other 2. Background color, we're going to make sure we select the green color. Font size, we want to make sure we change it to 24. Height and width we'll keep automatic. And then text for button 3, let's get rid of that. And let's type in the word green. All right, so usually when we build applications, we always, symmetry and consistency is very important. So normally what I would do is I would create all these buttons the same size, hence not leaving them as automatic. Right now being set to automatic, the buttons will scale in size based off of what's on the inside of it, meaning the text, which is why yellow and green are roughly the same, but red is different. So you always want to make things symmetrical and for consistency's sake, because it's very eye appealing that way. And a lot of these apps that we use are designed specifically that way because of user appeal, and we want to make sure that people are happy with the apps, and the look of it is a big part of that. All right, so now that we have the 3 buttons created, I'm good on this end. I think I'm ready to go. If you want, you can try now. If you have that app downloaded, you can open up the application so that you see both the red and the blue button. You can go to Connect. You can click on AI Companion. All right, and then you can click on the blue button, which will open up your camera. You can scan this, and then you can import the code into your tablet or your phone. And then and you can't test it yet because there's no code yet, but you'll see what it looks like. Food for thought, which I stressed with the class on Tuesday. In order to compile your code, all right, your computer you're using and your cell phone must be on the same network device. If you're not on the same network device, or I should say the network name, so if your home network name is called home, then both your computer and your phone have to be on the same network. It's called the SSID, or the network name. Otherwise, if the computer's on your Wi-Fi at home and your cell phone is on the cellular network, the phone and the computer will never sync up. All right, so you have to be on the same Wi-Fi name in order for that to happen, to compile your code. Okay, but once you do that and you go through the Connect and AI Companion and scan the QR code, all right, this will then display on your screen, on the app on your device, whether it be the phone or the tablet. Okay, so now you can touch these buttons all you want. Nothing's going to happen. So let's build some code so we can actually get these things to change. All right, and so like I said, what I want to do is I want to create a color change app, meaning I want to take the red color. When I touch this button, I want the red to change to yellow. When the yellow, I touch that button, I want that to change to green. And when I touch the green, I want it to turn to red. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my blocks tab, and I'm actually going to go and I'm going to work on the code to make that happen. Because as you saw in the designer area here, I can click on these items here and I can actually change attributes of the object in question, right? This is called a static change, because once I change it here, it's always going to be this color. To dynamically change something now, I can actually now create code in order to do that. So I'm going to start off now with this area here. And so the way how this works is that every section that I click on, all right, we see items that look like puzzle pieces. All right, so, and they're all color-coded too. And the reason why they're color-coded is because they have a specific meaning behind it. Anything blue is math-related. Anything pink is text-related. Anything light blue is list-related. Anything orange is a variable. All right, and those all have specific meanings, and we'll be using those as the semester unfolds. For right now, however, all I want you to do is whenever we drag and drop components from the designer side, like we did with the 3 buttons, into our viewer here, right, those items now will show up below where it says screen 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button red, all right, and we have some components here that are at our disposal. Anytime we see like this yellowy mustard colored looking block here, this is what we call an event handler. And in coding, when we're dealing with graphics user interfaces, an event handler is basically something that is going to drive an event or an action and make an action take place. So in this case, when we read this button here, it says when button red dot click. So the way how we can read this is when I click button red, I want to do, and then whatever code we're going to snap into place over here. All right, and so that means that on the screen, when I click the red button, we're going to have a certain function happen. All right, so let's click on this block here and let's drag it out onto my screen, just like that. All right, and so now I got to start getting into that coding mindset of what function do I want to happen? Well, when I click the red button, I want the color to change from red to yellow. So let me go back under button red, all right, and let me check out these green blocks that I have over here. And we see that we have light green and dark green blocks. The dark green blocks function is, as you see, that says set, and its purpose is to set or change the property into something different. While the light green blocks are usually what we refer to as get blocks, and a get block is to grab the value that current property has. So what I mean by that is if I go back to the designer and I'm looking at background color, for example, so like right now, button green, its current property value is green. So if I get the value of the background color of button green, it's going to return the value color green. If I want to set the background color of color green, what I'm basically telling it to do is I want to set it to or change it to a different color. All right, so that's the difference between those two blocks that we have there. These are all listed in alphabetical order: background color, enabled, font, font size, height, so on and so forth. So if you ever need to find something, just think alphabetically and you'll be able to find the component you're looking for. But because I want to change the background color, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this block, this set block here, and I'm going to pull it on out. All right, and I'm going to plug this and snap it into my block here. Notice how when I click and drag this green block, when I bring it in close proximity to the button click block, you see how that little nodule lights up? That's telling me that once I release my mouse click, it's going to snap right into place like so. All right, but when you do that, sometimes you see this little red X pop up, and that basically tells you there's an error here. And if you ever have one of those, you can click on the arrow over here, and that's going to center the error block that you have. So if you have a bunch of blocks all over the place, it'll center right on the issue, and then all you have to do is click on the red X, and it gives you a little helpful tooltip here telling you what the error is. And all it's saying is basically that this block needs an input to be plugged into this area over here. So once we plug an input in here, it's going to allow us to, the issue is going to go away. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to, like I said, I want to set button red's background color. I wanted to change it to yellow. So there is a tab over here called colors. So if I click on that, it gives me all of these little blocks that have the color that I need. I can create a custom color if you're good with RGB values. But because I want to just use the basic color, I'm going to just click on the yellow color here, and I'm going to snap that into place like so. All right, and so therefore now when I test, if I can go under Connect AI Companion, I can load up the program if you closed it out, reload it. But when you do that now and you click on the button red, the background color of red will now change to yellow. You've effectively written your first program and your first line of code. All right, but as you're testing it now, you're probably saying, okay, wait a minute. So I touched button red, the background changes to yellow, which is great, but the wording still says red. So we want to make sure that for consistency purposes, everything matches. So because I've changed the background color to yellow, I want to now make sure that the text also changes along with it. So if I go back under button red and I scroll toward the bottom alphabetically, all right, we have a set button red dot text, all right, and this dot text falls in line with the text that's written within the button. So I'm going to click on this set block here, and I'm going to plug this in directly below the button red dot background color. All right, so now what I'm going to do, it's an error here because it's expecting an input. So I'm going to now go under text, and I'm going to grab all the way at the top this first block here, which we call an empty string. It's basically empty right now, but its purpose is for us to type something in here. So I'm going to type in the word yellow so that it matches the color that we dropped in there. You can also use these blocks as empty strings if you're looking to like add blank spaces elsewhere. That's totally fine to do as well. But now when we click on button red, not only is the background color going to change to yellow, but the text is also going to change along with it to say the word yellow as well so that they match up. Okay, so we have to do the same thing for both other objects, all right? So I'm going to click on button yellow, and we're going to basically do the same process where I'm going to actually click on the button yellow.click event handler, all right, just like I did up here. And I'm going to need those same two blocks, but not under button red, under button yellow. So I'm going to click on button yellow, and I'm going to grab this first dark green block, which is a set background color block. And that's going to get plugged in here. And this is my yellow button. I wanted to change that to green, so I'm going to go under colors, pick on the color green, and I'm going to plug in the color green. I need to do the same thing with the text as well. So let's go back under button yellow, scroll toward the bottom, and grab the set button yellow.text block. And we're going to plug that in here as well. And just like I did up here, I'm going to take a pink block, I'm going to plug it in there. So the first block up top. And I'm going to make sure that the color, the word matches the color, and so I'm going to type in the word green. All right, so that is good with that. I also now need to do the last block, which is button green. So rather than having to constantly drag and drop all the time, I'll show you the shortcut way to do this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate these blocks. It's just like copy and pasting in a Word document. I'm going to right-click on this outside block, or if you're an Apple user, you're going to hold down Control and click, and you're going to click on the duplicate option, which is that very first option. So now it duplicates the block as is. So now we have an issue because now we have two red X's pop up. And so when we click on the red X, it's going to give us an error that says there's a duplicate event handler for this component. And if we look, we have button yellow.click, button yellow.click. We have the same issue. But again, I don't want two button yellows. I want a red, a yellow, and a green. So the easiest way to fix this now is that we have these little drop-down arrows here. I can click on the drop-down arrow. I can now select button green, which is the last one I need to do. And now the arrows go away, and I now have my button green.click event handler made. The thing you need to be careful of when you shortcut by copying and pasting code is that when you copy all of this, not only did the event handler keep the same name, but all the components on the inside also keep the same name as well. So if we want to click button green to change that middle yellow button, that's fine, but that's not what the purpose of this program is. We want to touch button green and have it turn to red. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that these set features also follow with button green. So just like I did up here, I'm going to click on the drop down, select button green, all right, so that it's now going to affect that button. And I want to make sure that I change to the color red. So rather than grabbing the red color from here, I'm just going to click on the backdrop here and just change the color on the fly to red. So nice and quick. And then I'm going to get rid of, again, the word green. And I'm going to type in the word red. So now we can go up to Connect, AI Companion, Scan, test your code. And now you'll see that the code will load as is like this. And now when you run the program on your phone and you touch these, the red will say yellow, turn to yellow. This will turn to green and say green, and this will turn to red and say red. And that's the purpose of the program, to show how things can change dynamically based on the code we have written. All right, and we stopped there as far as building that program together in class. What I then did is I directed the attention to the class, to the assignments and projects area, and I said your assignment due next week is going to be, I want you to explore the concepts that we covered in class today, which is briefly what I talked to you about right now, and be able to have the application change color back to the original color. Because what you notice now is that when you click on each object, it will change the color, but when you touch it again, it's stuck there, all right? It cannot go back to the original color that it was, all right, which looks like our stoplight here. So I want you to figure out a way of how we can actually get, when red changes to yellow, how we can get that yellow to now turn back to red. Now, there's a proper way to do it in coding, all right? But there's a few ways you can kind of work around and do it, which I don't want to call them the improper way because there really is no improper way to code. But from a standard perspective, there is a standard way that you should do this. We didn't cover it in class. I briefly mentioned it actually one time, but I didn't focus on it. And I want to see if you can actually figure it out. We're going to cover this first thing in class, next class. But the purpose of having you do this assignment, again, is not to kind of create headaches for you. But because of the fact that it's sort of a gimme assignment, everybody's going to get credit for it, what you turn in. It's a way for me to mark, attendance that you showed up to class, or like you contacted me and, you're there. And so therefore, whatever you turn in, when I have to mark you as present in class, this is basically how I'm going to go about doing it. All right, and you will get graded for it, and you'll receive top marks for it. So again, it's your kind of first freebie as we delve into this material. Last thing to kind of show you, and then I'm going to stop the video. In order to submit this to that assignment, all I want you to do is take a screenshot of this designer screen, and I want you to take a screenshot of the blocks of code. Now, you can do a screen grab of the screen, which is fine. The best way to do it, however, is, especially with your code, when you're in this area here, not on the blocks, but in the backdrop here, again, right-click for PC, control-click for Apple. There's an option here that says download blocks as image. When I click that option, it's going to allow me to download an image of all the blocks I have on my screen. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly open it downloads. I'm going to just open it up quick in my downloads, and it's basically going to be a nice PNG file that's saved. The reason why I would like you to do this is because now what I can do is I can actually go and I can blow this up without losing any integrity of all the wording in your blocks. Sometimes when your programs get super big, what's going to eventually happen is that if you just do a regular screen grab, when you're zoomed out because you've got like maybe 100 blocks on your screen, And then when I go to try to zoom in the program, the wording is going to get very blurry. It loses a lot of integrity, or pixelation with the words. And sometimes it'll be hard for me to read your code, and I can't really grade or give full marks if I can't read what's going on. So easy way to do that, do the way I showed you, and then I'll be able to read it no problem. All right, so that will conclude this video. Hope you found it helpful. We're going to go into more detail, obviously, next class. Hope you're both doing well. We'll see you next week. Take care.